Hello and welcome back to Room for TCG. With OP17 actually not very far out now. We're currently on Tuesday at the time of recording. It's coming out 2 weeks on Friday, at least for pre-releases in the West. Which is kind of crazy. We've only just had the starter decks. That format's just started. There's going to be like, that's a super short-lived format, like 2 weeks. And we've still not had quite all of the OP17 reveals, but with rocks revealed, as well as the vast majority of the rares and SRs from this set, I think we can get a pretty good estimate of what the new decks are going to look like and what decks are going to potentially be buffed by some of these new cards. Drink of the day is Monster the Doctor Zero Sugar. Slightly healthier. Cope. And let's jump over to Card Market. But first, thank you to Sleeve Chief for sponsoring this video. If you are interested in picking up anything on Sleeve Chief, I'd wait a couple weeks, because later this month, on the 16th of August, they've got a huge sale of up to 70% off certain products, 2 new lines coming out, as well as a whole bunch of restocks of some fan favourite design. If you want to buy beforehand, I'm not going to stop you. Use code MARINE for 5% off. Thank you to Sleeve Chief for sponsoring this video. And starting off with Red Edward Newgate is, of course, the new leader. It seems like a more defensive take on the existing Red Whitebeard Pirates archetype that's existed all the way back since OP02. And I want to start with Moby Dick, the red stage. The rare version of this is very cheap, literally pennies. Make sure you got your copies though, because I think this will be a key part of the deck. But the altar is one of my... I really like this altar. I think this is a really nice one. And whilst you are going to trash this stage, it will probably sit on the board for a little while, so... I don't know, I think this is a big upgrade over the original, and for sort of £10, £11, I don't think this is too bad. If I was playing more of this format, and it's a weird one, because I guess I've gone on a very brief tangent, I'm only going to be playing the game until the end of September. Once we get to October, I'm going on a long holiday for a couple of months, so I'm going to miss most of this format. So buying all tarts for a format I'm not going to play feels kind of weird. But if I wasn't, I'd probably buy these 3 for a tenner right now, because I like Red Newgate a lot. Don't know if it's going to be top tier, but it at least feels quite competent. And I don't think it'll be lower than tier 2, for sure. It's a very solid deck, and Moby Dick looks pretty good. Anyway, moving on. Another card that is sort of not uniquely good in Red Newgate, because you do see this play in Red Ace, but when I've played Red Ace, I've never felt excited to play this card out. To be honest with you, the Ace. The onboard effect turning 8Ks into 2Ks is cool, but it felt very, very slow. Having the 7-cost Odin that's able to cheat this out so you can double develop whilst getting the search, it feels a lot better in Newgate. And because you aren't giving things rush, it doesn't feel like you're missing out on anything by playing this card. Whereas in Ace, if you were to play this on 6, you'd feel quite upset because you're not getting to play a Vista or a Marco and rush in with it straight away. But yeah, I do think this at this price is quite reasonable. £7, £8 for a secret is always a reasonable price, in my opinion, at least for a decent secret. And this one I do see seeing success in Red Newgate. Also, you'll probably still continue to see a couple in Red Ace, and Ace and Luffy also plays this for what that's worth. The altar this one it's a bit mediocre. It's nicer, but like, not by much. I don't know, maybe you disagree with me on that one. I do have one of these. I have one of these and 4 of these. Don't worry about it. I don't know if this is worth 20 quid. This one for 18 is quite a good price if you live in the UK. I bought off this guy quite recently, I think. Shout out Joel Anel. He has a cheap Ace. Cop it now. But yeah, I think if you can pick these up, certainly if you're in the UK, there's 2 here for 7 quid each. And then you could get that alt for 18. They're going to be good in Red Whitebeard. Speaking of a card that I'm less sure on, though, is this Red Whitebeard. This is obviously still going to be good in Red Ace, and I do think Red Ace is going to be significantly buffed by this set. We'll come on to more of his exclusive cards in a moment. But I could also see this seeing play in Red Whitebeard. Get you copies of the SR whilst it's so cheap. I mean, the average price is apparently £1, but there's loads here for less than that. It's just the shipping's a bit of a ball ache. The altar on this one is amazing. I really, really like this one. I don't know if it's worth 20 quid, personally, to me, but if you got a bit of money, I do think this is a very, very nice alt art, actually. The blue color works so well on these red cards, in my opinion. Now, this one's a bit out of left field in this section. Obviously, this card has been getting a little bit more hype in the past few weeks because of all the straw slop decks, for lack of a better term. Straw Bow, Straw S21, ST21. What else are we seeing? Straw Hat Bonnie, Straw Hat everything. That's the new hotness. But this card is a solid target to play off the full cost Luffy if you don't have the Giga combo. But I also just think this is quite a good card in Newgate. I've obviously been testing with this because a lot of the Newgate cards haven't been revealed, or hadn't been up to when I was testing. We got a few more yesterday, which might be better. I don't think so. The strength of this card in specifically Whitebeard, other than just being a good generic 3-don red card, the downside of this card is it was a 3-3. So whilst you draw the card when your opponent KO'd it, your opponent would KO it very easily. But because of your leader effect being a 4k counter, if your opponent swings like 5 into this and doesn't have another character to swing into it, you can defend that and then swing 6 again. Then you've just played a 3-6 that potentially swung twice and then will draw you a card because they have to kill it. They have to kill it at some point. So I do actually really rate this as an early game play in Newgate, and it's searchable off Moby Dick. The alt art is nice as well. This one's a little bit more expensive, £10-11, not too bad though. And considering this is like sort of a Nami card, I don't know, maybe the scalpels will catch on. And then your playable cards will be worth a bit more because it's got Nami's face on it. Sort of. But anyway, yeah, I think this is a solid card for Newgate. Probably not playing this one in Red Ace though. You'd rather just play the Luffy every time. Goldie Roger has dropped a little bit from where he used to be. Not a ton, it's still quite an expensive secret, one of the more expensive ones for sure. It's always worth owning one copy of this. You seldom need more than one, but I do think this is worth owning at one copy. The alt art is incredibly expensive, where you got all these manga, wanted poster ones as well, mangas. This one's nice, I do have one of these. I paid about 45 quid for mine, 45. Yeah, it's a bit more than that now. I do think this one is quite nice, though. But yeah, the regular is absolutely fine if you just need one copy. Red Ace Leader is one I would consider picking up. Actually dropped off a little bit in recent times. There's a few here for like 33, 34. Red Ace also gains the new 10 cost Newgate, that we're getting in the new set, and can uniquely give it Rush. Well, I know Inuarashi and Nekomamushi exist, but this leader effect is very, very good with that card. Becoming an 8k leader and having a 12k rush body is insane value, not least when you're going for lethal. But yeah, I do think that Red Ace should get a good bit stronger this set with that Newgate. Whether he'll be in a better place in the meta is very hard to say at this point, but in a vacuum, this deck gets buffs, so the alt art leader might be one to watch out for. And speaking of ones to watch out for Red Ace, I don't think you'll ever play this card in Newgate. That's just not what this deck wants to do. But this Luffy is very important for Ace. It is what helps you become that 7k leader in the early game to stave off the aggressive decks. The regular SR is very cheap. The alt art is a bit more expensive because of the Luffy tax, but it is a very nice alt art. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. You've got Ace, and you've got some marine fodder dying. What a treat. Moving on to Green, and Green Shanks is the new leader coming out of this set, but I think it is also important to sort of at the same time talk about Mihawk. Mihawk's gained significant buffs from the starter deck, and he's already a fairly popular deck, so some of these prices are a little higher than they might have been otherwise. It is what it is. But I think both Mihawk and Shanks are going to make use of a decent amount of the same cards to a certain extent, although with more of that red hair package revealed now, it seems like Shanks might not need to lean as heavily into the slash package as we previously thought. Starting off from the top, the Perona Searcher is extremely expensive at the minute. £9 for an SR Searcher just feels like a lot of money to me. You can probably make some Shanks builds that don't include this card, and just focus more on the Red Hair Pirates builds cards, though that does have 2 1-cost searchers at least, and the Lucky Roo as a searcher. But if you want to include a lot of tech cards, things like 6-cost Lore, things like Smoker, things like the 6-cost Mihawk, Odin, Law and Beppo, and then obviously your green events. I Know You're Strong, DMG, Electrical Luna, many of which we're going to talk about in a minute. Perona is very, very valuable for being able to search those, especially if you're playing 6-cost Law. I think you probably want Peronas just as another useful target to bounce that just costs 1. The alt art of this is very, very pretty. It's quite expensive at 30 quid, and I actually do quite like the regular, sort of cartoony style. So, I mean, you be the judge. They're both fairly expensive, though. It is what it is. And another Perona that's got quite expensive is this Perona. Now, I think there's a reasonable chance you don't play this Perona if you're not also playing the 6-cost Mihawk. This card, I think, is going to be a very mixed bag in the deck because it can't play the Yasop, which is very notable. The Yasop seems like it's going to be the best 5-cost for the deck, at least in red hair. And then you'll probably play that alongside the 5-cost Odin, who I guess we can bring up now. I do think this card is probably an instant include for Shanks, and it definitely is for Mihawk. If you're planning on playing Mihawk, I think the Mihawk is more important than if you're just playing Shanks, and the same with Perona. And also, honestly, the same with Smoker. I think this card could have potential in both, the same as Perona and Mihawk could have potential in Shanks as well. But I think they're all more likely to see play in just Mihawk, because Shanks uniquely has access to that Yasop, or can make good use of that Yasop. The Perona is also quite expensive, so if you don't think you're going to play Mihawk, if you see yourself as more of a Shanks fan, I think you can probably skip this and the Mihawk. Although if you can get these decks for a good price, just get the decks. Just get the bricks, right? Just the cards inside. You'll get your Odins, you'll get your Mihawks, and you'll get the other cards are useful as well. The 2k Zoro and the 1-cost Kinemon could also be decent for Shanks. Smoker obviously is not in the starter deck. This is still quite cheap. You can pick these up for £1 or £2. I would just grab yourself 2 copies. I don't think you'll ever play more than 2. But if Charlotte Lin ends up being a good deck, this is a green banish card. That's very useful for beating yellow decks. Last one before we move on from the 5-cost package is Trafalgar Law. I've been telling you to get this card in every single video. It's still cheap. Just get 4 copies. Get them off your friends. Get them off your local. Get them from your bulk. Just have 4 copies of this card. It's such a good card, man. Anyway, moving on from the 5 and 6-cost stuff, Law Beppo is probably a reasonable top-up for Shanks, especially if you're playing the Perona Searcher. Obviously, the 10-cost Shanks is brilliant. The 9-cost Shanks we're also going to talk about next. But having a couple copies of Law Beppo to be able to stun big things, it's maybe even stun 2 big things, right? Because you can stun one with Law Beppo effect, and then the second one with your leader effect for trashing one card, and become a 7k leader, which is obviously just quite good into anything that's trying to be quite wide and aggressive. I think you're probably not going to want more than 2 of this in Shanks. However, this is like the boss monster for Mihawk. At least 3 copies in Mihawk. ST16 Shanks has been rising up a little bit recently. This one also has a pretty nice alt art, although this alt art is quite expensive. Cheapest one's nearly £30 now, which is wild. And the SP, which I'm glad I bought this a long time ago, is also, you're looking like £120 plus. Kind of mad. It's a nice card though. Very, very nice looking card. But if all you want to do is play the deck, just get yourself some of the regular ones. £1 or £2, you can probably get some off your friends. Anyone who's been around for a while opened a ton of this PRBO2 set, which had a reprint of this. You're probably not going to need more than 2 copies in either Shanks or Mihawk. Moving on to a few events. I Know You're Strong, so I'll go all out from the start. This card's gone from strength to strength. You'll excuse the pun. It's a sort of mid-ground between playing Luna and playing like Trichiliacosm, right? Because it can be 3k for your leader, or stun 2 things. Also has this weird red and white alt art. I don't know if I like these that much. 4 quid for an alt event is not too bad though. If you do like these, I think £4 is quite reasonable. We're not going to get a reprint of this ever. This was in treasure boosters that came out as sort of box toppers alongside OP17. So if you do like this art, I don't think the price is bad. But yeah, you're probably going to... Whether you're going to play this or Luna, I think is going to be a debate in both Mihawk and Shanks, but you're probably going to play one of them. In Shanks, I'd probably be edging more towards Strong. In Mihawk, though, I might be looking more towards Luna, which is also the more expensive of the 2. £5 a copy for a rare is pretty sad, but It is what it is. This card just has a very good effect, and it's very old and has not had a reprint. It's been good for a while, Luna. Looks to be continuing to be good in OP17. Into Zebek, this feels very good. All of their stuff, other than their big 10 cost Zebek, is obviously hit by Electrical Luna. They don't play any 8 cost or higher characters other than the 10 drop. But into a number of the other decks, this is not as relevant. Into Purple Kaido, they rely on boss monsters. Into Black Luffy, a lot of their stuff costs plus 12. So that's not going to get hit. Into Newgate, they play a lot of those 10 costs, maybe even 8 cost bids. So I think this is going to depend on the meta, but if Enel remains good and Zebek looks to be pretty good, I think Luna is something to consider. The alt art is quite expensive in my opinion, 20 quid. But if you're looking at the upper end of this sort of range, if you're paying like maybe 8 quid for these, 20's not that much of a stretch. I don't know, maybe my mind's gone. Final event is DMG. I think this is actually going to drop off in play rate with the new Tenko Shanks coming out, but it's always worth having like 2 copies. You'll never need more than 2. I don't know, man. I don't think those Zebek cards go in very much. I don't think anything gets meaningfully enough buffed by the Zebek cards to warrant, say, go and pick up this old leader. I put Zonji here because it's a half blue card. It could maybe use the Big Mum. The Big Mum's pretty cool. You can play it off lore in this deck. I don't know, man. This leader's fucking expensive for a starter deck leader. This is more than the price of the damn deck when it came out. I think I paid £9.50 for these decks. Wild. Absolutely wild. Regardless, yeah, Rox is probably not going to play any generic blue cards. I truly think the risk of whiffing your leader effect is not worth the minor upgrade of playing like a Galdino or a Gum Gum Rain. Maybe I'll be wrong on that, but at the moment, I just don't think it's worth the risk. So I really don't have a lot to talk about for blue. Moving on to purple, I've got more to talk about with this color. Obviously, the new leader is Purple Kaido, and he has a number of Animal Kingdom Pirates cards that are quite important for the deck from previous sets. This queen is cheap. We're not going to dwell here. This is the best search the deck has. It's also a ramper. This is an excellent, excellent card that you'd be happy to see in your opening hand in most games, and I would recommend getting your copies. The king as well. This is... Oh, my biggest problems with the deck are this damn card. This card is so good that when you whiff it, your deck feels so much worse. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. I don't know. This card is so integral to the whole strategy of the deck. Just having this thing on the board that ramps back 2 on every turn and effectively can't be removed or can't be KO'd. It's so huge. When you whiff it, it sucks. But if you are planning on playing Kaido, maybe get 8 copies and see if you can get them all in your deck list without your opponent noticing. Joking, obviously. The ult of this spiked a while ago. It started to come back down a little bit. It is a really nice ult. I do really, really like this one. I have 4. I bought them right before the price spiked. I'm considering selling them for this price, because I'm not going to play too much of this format, but yeah, this is a nice ult. I don't think 15 is too bad, but I don't know. If you're having to pay 20, I don't know if I'm paying that personally, but it's up to you. Flame Dragon Torch might not make the cut. We do have another couple of counter events in the deck now, but it's probably worth owning 2 copies. Charlotte Linlin is worth owning 4 copies. I don't know if it'll be a 4-off in the deck, but the fact that it's searchable off, we're going to claim the One Piece, which has shot up in the last few weeks due to Katakuri starter deck, as well as, of course, Kaido hype. You're going to need 4 of these for the deck. We didn't apparently get a searcher unless it's in one of these last few cards that we've not had revealed yet, which actually sucks, but it is what it is. This is going to be even more important than potentially I thought for the deck, and you will need 4 copies. There's still a bunch for 2p, but, you know, it's a funny postage situation. Going back to Linlin, this is, I think, honestly, one of the, maybe the best boss monster in the deck. I don't know, they're all pretty good. Anyway, this being able to remove one thing whilst healing, it just buys you so much time. You get another big dude on the board, you get to remove whatever your opponent played, and it also combos perfectly with MrMaChONaCHOMan. MrMaChONaCHOMan is the purple card. You play this in every purple deck. It just is what it is. At this point, it's too good. Early game, it's free counter, free consistency to draw you towards the early game pieces you need. And then late game, when you combine it with Mum or Divine Departure, which is also on this list, it's just the best removal combo in the game because there's nothing you can do to play around it. You can power reduce and then rest the character. You can use it alongside the new Tenkos Kaido to play that, then Mama Ragen to rest some removal protection, something like a Laboon or a Cure. In rocks, attack that, then use the effect of the Tenkos Kaido because that's an activate main, which is bizarre, but it is what it is. It's for King, I know. But yeah, Mama Ragen will be a 4 in the deck. I'd be very, very surprised if it is not. It's just like the best generic purple card. Unfortunately, it's £10, but for me, it is what it is. If you want to play purple, you got to get this card. And I think you probably have to get this card as well if you want to play Kaido specifically. Moving back to DD, this is worth owning. I know we just had another 0 cost in purple, which is wild. We still only have 1 in yellow, but we now have 3 in purple. I do think Divine Departure is better, though. The trigger on the new one is pretty cool, and the fact that it's searchable is pretty cool. But the activate main on this is just... This is like a good play. Just, your 0 cost just being like a good play on certain turns is obscene. And this alt art is also obscene. This looks insanely good. I've got 2 of these. Managed to pull them both. Rare good pulls for me. I'll absolutely take these. Yeah, 80 quid is a lot. 90 quid is a lot. But it just does look sick. And I don't see this going anywhere unless purple falls off. Now, last one. This is a cope. This is a cope pick. Both Big Mum and Rocks, who look to be both strong decks. Their leaders are when attackings. Foxy keeps leaders stunned. Leaders that rely on when attacking effects. Once Foxy gets to his late game, which he does it quite consistently, they're effectively vanilla leaders. And turning your opponent's leader into a vanilla leader is amazing. Now, I think Foxy is still going to have a lot of issues. Purple decks, other purple decks are going to be very, very bad. He can't deal with the removal. Something like an Enel is going to be pretty difficult to deal with. But if Rox ends up being very, very good, maybe, just maybe, Foxy can be the answer. Denying those draws and the leader swings is very, very strong. And you can potentially freeze a Shiki as well. You're getting a lot of value out of freezing those things. I don't know. Maybe this is cope, but you know, £12. Wow. They are all in the UK. And this Spanish guy. Why does the UK have a monopoly on Foxy? Whatever. I maybe get this one if you fancy trying a bit of a rogue pick. And moving on to black, I don't have nearly as much to talk about. Whilst I think the Elbaf package is actually going to be interesting for a number of leaders, I don't think there's too many old cards that synergize with them that well. In terms of Black Luffy, the new one, Tempest Kick is a card that people have been testing. It's really nice alongside specifically the Loki to remove sort of slightly more relevant characters because cost 4 is quite low. I've seen other people trying Laboon as well. I'm not personally a believer in that, but Tempest Kick going hand neutral, I think has a bit more potential. For 1 Tempest Kick, you can start removing 7 costs, like the Shiki or the Newgate in Rocks, more like the Jozu in Newgate, which is pretty relevant. So I think getting copies of this could be okay. It has risen a little bit recently, potentially because of this hype around the new black stuff. But yeah, if you can pick like a couple of these up pretty cheap, I think it's worth having. Pirate Docking 6 is probably the card that I have the most hope for as an old card in the new Luffy. Maybe that's cope at this point. I don't know. The Elbow package already looks pretty damn good. But I think the value you get from this card is strong. Getting one of those little 2-cost Elbaf guys to be a 5k, alongside developing this 5/7 and you mill some cards, it's pretty cool. He only becomes a blocker if you've got the stage in play, and I feel like we're not playing the stage at this point. But Pirate Docking 6 could still be a very meaningful inclusion, I think. 7-cost Luffy, I'm not as hyped about. I don't know, if the deck ends up struggling with aggro a lot, sure, but getting 20 in trash is not easy. You'll probably achieve it by like the very end of the game, but we're not Brook. We're not milling as many as Brook. We're not getting to 20 by like your 8 on turn when you'd play this out. You're just not getting there. At least not reliably. So I'm not personally sold this will be good. And I'm even less sold this Nami will be good. I straight up don't think this is a good card. But I just wanted to mention it because I know people will ask about it. I don't think ever playing, honestly, either of these in the deck. Maybe this one at a push. However, another few leaders that can all use this. ST14 Luffy. If you want to see what this looks like, Nightingale TCG did a pretty cool video where he was playing some ST14 Luffy with the new Elbaf cards. These old leader cards from starter decks that never get reprinted, they end up having a bit of value, and this guy's like 4 quid. We talked about Zonji earlier in the video, who's like 12. So if you enjoy collecting leaders or think that you might want to try this, at least with the Elbaf package, £4 is not the worst. One that I'm personally most interested in is Red Black Sabo. I was very intrigued to see all the Strawbo abominations that came out of that starter deck. But I think the Elbaf stuff could be pretty cool too, right? The cards like the Saul and the Loki obviously fulfill your leader effect, being a 12 cost. And then all those little 2-drops, they're not just 2 5s in this deck, they're 2 6s. 2 6 is an amazing stat line. That reminds me very much of the Mr. 1 and the Mr. 2. And many of those Straw Hat cards either draw cards or give you value in other ways, right? Like the Robin with the power down, the Brook with the hand snipe. So I've been messing around with this a little bit on the sim. Feels alright. I don't know if I'd say it's top tier, but it certainly feels competent, and I'm excited to play more with it. And if you want to cope like me, the leader's actually quite cheap, despite the Sabo hype recently. Still £16 for the ult. Very reasonable. And final black card, Rob Lucci. Josh's Boosters did a video on this one. Check out his channel if you want to see some gameplay with this, which was pretty cool. Again, this guy combines with Loki really nicely alongside the Tempest Kick to just remove better things. Hitting a 5 at base with leader effect is significantly better than hitting a 4. There's a lot of 5 drops in the meta at the moment. Things like the 5-cost Mum, things like Odin, things like 5-cost Smoker, even Perona, although you might not want to KO her. But yeah, all sorts of 5 costs in the format. And the mill as well makes cards like Pirate Docking slightly more consistent. And the Gird that can get back anything. And also the 8-cost Luffy, you'll just more likely have the target you need in there. So I think this is pretty cool. Check out the video if you want. And if you were a Lucci fan in the past, this might be a new way to play the deck, which is pretty exciting. And if you're thinking of picking up Lucci, you should also probably think about picking up this Lucci. Seems like a nice inclusion in the deck. The cost increase could maybe eventually help you fulfill your Elbaf guy's requirements. And the trash one can target cards like the 1-cost Nami Searcher from the Elbaf package to get a little bit of extra value. The alt art is alright, but I'm just... what's happened here? I don't know. I kind of prefer the regular. I think the art is really, really good on this one. Now, going back to yellow, I think the Big Mum deck is going to be rather archetypal. You do rely on getting those triggers. If you don't see enough triggers before you get to your 10 cost, I think you're going to be in a pretty rough spot. However, you will probably play at least a handful of non-new cards. Some of the ones that I have the most hope for are the Teach. This is just a generically good boss monster. It fills the role of sort of what you would be doing on 8 better than a lot of the Big Mum cards. And the fact that it's a brick doesn't matter because you can just toss it with leader effect if you don't need it. I do expect the Teach to see play, and being able to then stack a trigger is pretty cool too. This has also dropped a lot since Teach came out, currently down to looking around 15 average price, which could be a reasonable time to pick these up. It does seem like a decent generic secret for the future, and yellow secrets are always more expensive than most. Next up, Zeus. Zeus is a good 2k. We're going to have a lot of life a lot of time with this deck, so taking one isn't too bad. And there are a lot of 5 costs that are annoying, particularly Smoker in green. So I would be very surprised if we don't play Zeus. The alt arts of this are actually quite expensive though. I don't know if I'd be paying £25 for this. And I certainly wouldn't, be paying £100 for this. I guess the Teach alt is... How's the Teach alt doing? 30 quid? I don't know if I'm paying for this. I actually quite like the regular art. I quite like the regular art. Anyway, moving on. This is a bit more of a cope / left field pick. Derashi. I think having both this and the pudding as things to do on 3 Don to increase the size of your hand seems quite compelling. There's also the Lilith Searcher, but I'm not sure if we'll play that one. Certainly not as much as I'm excited to try out Derashi. The worst thing about this card in the past has been whiffing, which you're not going to do in this deck because you're going to have so many triggers. And the fact there's a brick, which doesn't matter because you can just leader effect it away. In my head, this deck is not playing too many bricks. You're playing your 10 mums, maybe some teachers, maybe this card, maybe like one other card. That's like 16. But because you're cycling so many cards with your leader effect, I don't envision it being too big a deal. And anything that can help you go positive whilst increasing consistency, I think is at least worth trying. This also got bought out a while ago. I think this got up to nearly £20 a while ago when this scene happened in the anime. It got bought out by a bunch of investors, shall we say? And now the price has come back down to a more reasonable one. £8 is not too bad. It is a very, very nice looking card too. And that's sort of all I have. Most lists that I've been seeing and I've been playing for Big Mum. I'm mainly playing the new cards and also cheap cards. I'm obviously not discussing commons and uncommons in this video for the most part, unless they have cool alts. But another couple leaders you could consider looking at. Pudding has gained both the stuff from this set and also the Tenkos Mum from the Kata deck. I personally don't think it's enough to make this deck good, but if you do, it's not too bad at price. 25 quid is not too bad. And Bonnie. This is definitely cope. But like, whenever you see new trigger cards, oh, Bonnie. Maybe Bonnie. Maybe we play a little Bonnie. I don't know, man. Maybe we don't play a little Bonnie. But maybe we could try it out. It seems interesting. The leader is like not bad, but it's just very mid. But it's also very cheap. £13 for any alt-art leader is good value in my book. Finally, I want to highlight a number of decks that are still expected to be good, but have not been directly buffed by the new set, such as an L here. These cards are dropping in value. People are not hyped on them anymore. Everyone's hyped for the new stuff, but these decks are still good, and if you've been priced out of them in the past, now could be a more affordable time to get in. As we covered earlier, MrMaChONaCHOMan's quite expensive for an L, but the alt-art leader is now solidly below £30, at least in these countries. And I don't think that's a bad price for what is one of the best leaders in the game, and probably will still be next set. The Secret NL as well is dropping. This is now, you can pick this up for below 10. This was like 20 on launch, I think, and sat at that for most of OP15. But yeah, it's been dropping. It's dropped from 14 to 10 in the last month or so. So probably a good time to pick this up. This also has an alt, but honestly, I prefer the regular art. I think it stands out way more. Rosas another one. She's dropped off a little bit. You can pick these up for around £1, £1.50 if you do plan on potentially being an NL player. He seems to have a pretty reasonable matchup into Rocks, being able to remove most of their characters. So that's definitely one positive for the deck. Another one is Goofy. Goofy was reasonably expensive. Certainly this alt-art leader was like £100 at one point, which was insane. I know it's a Luffy and it was a very good deck. Still is a very good deck, but come on, man. 45, 50 seems much more around where I would be picking one up. And honestly, I probably will pick this up quite soon for my leader collection. This is one I forewent buying because the price was absolutely silly. Prisoner as well. I remember when the set came out, you can see here on the chart, this was like £4 or £5 a copy. And yeah, now you can pick these up for around £1. A lot of these at €1 here, you can tell. Yeah, if you do want to play Goofy, this deck is so much cheaper now, even with the alt-art leader. And also Galdino. Now, I don't think we'll be playing Galdino in Rocks. That's what my instinct tells me. However, this is a very generically good blue card, and whatever the blue deck is next set, if it's not quite as type-locked as Rocks is, I expect we'll be playing this Galdino, and it's a very, very strong card. So now could be a reasonable time to pick him up. Although, if, for example, Goofy and Nami start seeing less play, which I think Nami will, I'm not so sure about Goofy, but if those decks start seeing less play in OP17, maybe this guy could drop a little further. I'm sure there are other decks. You can look through all the OP16 stuff. If there's stuff from OP16, generally it's gone down. The same is true of the Teach cards as well. We talked about the Secret Teach earlier. But unless it's a card that's like, for example, some of the Red Ace stuff is a little bit more pricey now. Like the Secret Ace, I think, was cheaper when it first launched. Because of a little bit of hype for Newgate. Now that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.